nothing worthwhile may be had without effort. When training is not painful and dangerous, you're doing little more than masturbating. I sometimes ask, why did I survive when we left so many of our best over there?
Hey everybody, I'm David Jordan. Thanks for watching. Today I'm here with renowned firearms instructor John Farnam. I just got finished taking his advanced pistol class, and I can't say enough about it. I'll do a review. I've got the privilege tonight of sitting down with John and asking a few questions, and I'm really intrigued at what makes him tick. So I appreciate you, first of all, John.
Thank you.
Agreeing to sit down with me. And
Anytime.
a couple of things for people that may not be so familiar with the John Farnam name. Who is John Farnam? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I'm no one special. I am I was on active duty with the Marines for a number of years, and I was in Vietnam. On my 51st day in country, I got my third Purple Heart, and I was evacuated home, and I was upset with the small arms training we received. I didn't think it prepared us very well for what we faced, and so when I became a police officer shortly thereafter, I discovered the same thing. I thought the training we were receiving was inadequate. And so I became a bit of an evangelist, and I started training and consulting, and have been doing it ever since. I'm not sure how effective I am, but it strikes me that this body of knowledge that we teach, this art that we try to advance, is important, and this knowledge needs to be preserved and refined and advanced with every generation. And with the world situation as it is, we dare not lose this. We have to keep advancing this. These skills and this knowledge is important. And I've lived a long time now, and I try my best to share this with my students.
Yeah, yes, sir. There's so many questions that pop in my head. I've got a whole stack of them, and I don't know that we'll ever get to any of those. You said that you think the information ought to be shared.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the most fascinating things that I have taken with your class. James Yeager said that you're the only instructor that when it comes time to leave the classroom and go to the range, he gets a little disappointed, and because of the information that you share.
Yeah.
And I really began to understand what that was like yesterday and today. The thing that I was really fascinated about was how you don't just start with the present. You give a little history.
Yes. And
bring us up to speed. What makes you do that?
I think the most important way to instruct, so the students really absorb what you're trying to tell them. Lecture, of course, is limited, and a lot of people spice that up with video and all that. The trouble is, in this business, oftentimes we find ourselves in places where I can't do that. I'm in the middle of the woods somewhere trying to lecture. So you have to make your lecture as important or as convincing as you can. And so I try to make points and then give historical illustrations of why that's important. I think you have to establish an emotional link with your student, and through that emotional link, you can funnel the knowledge that you're trying to get to them. Oftentimes the student will forget what you said, but they'll remember the way it made them feel. And that's probably the best compliment you can get as an instructor, I think. To me, a direct emotional link to my students is important. I think that's the most effective way, and if lecturing is my main tool, that's all I have. It's just me and my voice, and I don't have access to all the fancy graphics and all that. Then we had to make our lecture as effective as we can. Right. And once again, I've been doing this for a long time. And if there's a mistake that can be made that I haven't made, I can't imagine what it might be. But as you can probably tell, I'm more an evangelist than an instructor. I try not to sound as if I'm trying to sell you something, but on the other hand, I try to help you understand how important it is to you that you understand this. You have to understand how important it is, so you're willing to work. And going through the course, you know it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of disappointment, and it's frustrating. And you fail again and again, and have to step back up and try it again. Well, to get people to do that, to convince them that they have to go through that, you have to make sure they understand how important this is. And that's what I try to do.
I remember several times in the class, you said, if you're having a great time, I'm not doing my job right, or something.
Right.
Can you talk about that?
Well, I tell my students, as you heard in the beginning, this class is not fun, and it's not entertaining, and it's not intended as recreation. When you're here on a lark, you're in the wrong place. The best students I have, as you know, are the ones who recently had a close call or a bad experience. They know why they're there. The others, I have to communicate to them how serious it is, how important it is that you be able to do this. And then I try to keep them motivated throughout the class, but I try to prepare them at the beginning. You're not gonna have fun. Any training worth the title is painful and dangerous. When training is not painful and dangerous, you're doing little more than masturbating. And that's what so much of a training is. You're not here to get a check mark by your name. You're here to learn some important skills. As you know, it's frustrating. I suppose it's analogous to a golf swing, trying to swing a golf club and get a ball to go to a particular place. I'm not much of a golfer, but I know how frustrating that is. Yeah, I know it's frustrating. Yeah, I know you try again and again and keep making the same mistake over and over again. I know that. What you need to know is your goal is worthy. Nothing worthwhile may be had without effort. It's not going to fall out of the sky and land in your lap. You've got to work at it. And as you can see with my failing voice, I become the cheerleader. I become the one to encourage you, get back up there, do it again. Make a different mistake next time.
Right.
And if there's another way of learning this, if there's another way of becoming skillful, I don't know it. If there's a way you could just magically be able to do something, I'm not familiar with it. I only know one way to do this, and it's important to me, and it's important to my students. And the real joy of this business, God knows there's no money in it. The real joy of this business is seeing your students succeed and see them do things they didn't even think they could do. You demonstrate it. Oh, I can never do that. Sure you can. Sure you can. And then several hours later, they're doing it. Oh, this is one I didn't think for a second I could do that. And look, I'm doing it. Maybe not perfectly, but I'm doing it. There's nothing like it. And that's what keeps us going.
Very nice. New shooters, brand new shooters.
Yes.
What advice do you have for them starting out?
When the interest is there and they know why they're there, what I try to help them understand is you're not going to learn it all in your first class. This is going to be a lifelong pursuit. It's like a brand new martial artist. There's a million things to learn. I don't know all of them. There's things I'm still learning. There's things I don't know that I'm anxious to learn. And I'm older than most of my students. So understand, learning is not a destination. Learning is a journey. And put one foot in front of there. Don't worry about what you're going to learn 5 years from now. Let's get this down today. Here's your foundation. Let them put one foot in front of the other. Next time we get together, we'll learn something we'll build on what you already know and go to the next level. But sometimes naive students come to you, and as you know, a lot of what we do is, what's a good word? Dry. It's doing basic drills over and over again. And, you know, the wax on, wax off, as it were. And a student will say, well, when do we get to jump out of flaming helicopters? Or when do we get to gun down the charging Mongolians? You know, and I say, Skippy, we'll get to that. But right now, you can't hit the ground with your hat. So let's work on that first. And we'll get to the charging Mongolians eventually.
Flaming helicopters. I'm putting that on my quick list. A few questions about you. If they're not too personal, if they are, tell me. 3 Purple Hearts. Is that
Yes.
what I understand?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about
Sure.
that?
When I was in Vietnam, it was 1968. I was a young second lieutenant, Marine platoon leader, that most expendable of battlefield commodities. And I knew there was a war going on, and I knew I had to be there. When I got over there, of course, I had second thoughts. And I'm not even sure I'm qualified to talk about modern warfare because my war was 40 years ago. But even back then, there is so much stuff flying around that you're going to get hit. In my OCS class, I think the last statistics I heard, close to 70% of us were killed. The 30% of us who were not killed were all wounded. I don't know anyone that didn't have a Purple Heart. I know people had 5. I only have 3. But when you're up there doing your job, you're going to get hit. And I was hit in the face with fragments. I was shot through my hand. I had an entry wound here and an exit wound here. I was on a radio. The bullet actually came past like this and went through my hand. That was the final one. I was very lucky. And sometimes it's hard for me to talk about, but I left so many of my friends over there, all of whom were better qualified than me. I sometimes ask, why did I survive when we left so many of our best over there? Why was I left to survive? The least qualified of all. And I have to believe this, to do what I'm doing, to share this with my students. So anyway, that was my experience. And I lived through it and went on to have a family and so on and so forth, and I'm grateful. But this is what I do. This is my mission in life. And as you can probably tell, I'm really not qualified to do anything else, so here I am.
I dare to argue. I have to say, I'll say this again in my review. The first day of the class, 13 hours on his feet. I never saw you sit down, not one day. You may have, I never saw it. Not a lesson plan, not a PowerPoint, no notes, and it wasn't just, winging it, just, okay, well, here's something we can do next. Very structured, maybe the most structured, I've worked for the government for years,
right.
So I've been on very tightly run
Right.
lines with a lot of rules, but this was very well structured. Even if you didn't quite get where we were going at the time, as soon as you started running the drill, it all became very apparent.
Yeah.
And so I know why you're here with us.
Well, thank you.
You are, from what I've heard, if not the longest, one of the longest running firearms instructors that in American history.
Well, that's probably a dubious distinction. When I first started this, I met, and I must say I stand on the shoulders of the greats in this business, the Jeff Cooper and Charlie Askins and Harlan Carter and Bill Jordan and some of the legends. I knew these people personally, and they were always wonderful to me, and I'm very grateful, and I learned a great deal from them. The current generation, which include me, Mass Ayub, Kenny Hackathorn, and God forbid I miss someone, you know, Mandy Capelson, the ones that are close to my age, I've learned so much from also. But as I indicated in class, very few people have ever accused me of having an original idea. But I take great pride in my ability to gather the good information and roll it into a package and present it to my students in a way that makes sense. And as you can probably tell, as we did things, although you may not have realized it, you try to build. You teach a skill and then you incorporate that skill into a subsequent drill. And it's taken many years. And if there's a mistake that could be made that I haven't made, I can't imagine what it is. But, and I'm still not, don't claim any perfection. I'm still refining what I do. There's still things I don't know that I want to learn. There's still people I want to meet. And I'm sure I'll be saying that on my dying day, which hopefully isn't very soon. But I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
Yes, sir.
You know, a bird doesn't sing because he has a song. A bird sings because if he didn't, he would burst. That's the way I approach life and this, and I couldn't imagine doing it any other way.
Wow. When did you start shooting? How did that come about?
I had a great interest in guns and weapons in general since I was a child. I got that gene, and I don't come from a family. I don't come from a family of warriors or even service people. Somehow I got that gene, and I knew from a very early age that I liked weapons, I liked guns, and I wanted to learn how to use them.
Do you remember the first one?
My father knew nothing about guns. He took me out a couple, because he knew I was interested, so he took me out a couple times, and I remember shooting shotguns, and I remember shooting other weapons, and I remember my dad had a .38 special revolver, and I'm not even sure where he got it, but I knew I wanted to shoot it. And of course he knew nothing about it. Right. And my mother's family lived in Kansas, and we visited them when I was just a child on the farm a couple times. And I had several of her relatives take me out. And of course they didn't know anything either, but they at least let me shoot it. Right. And my interest was incorrigible from that point forward. And then, of course, I got older. I learned all the things I didn't know. And, you know, people like Jeff Cooper, whose, you know, place in history is secured, showed us all how to do this in a serious way. You know, even in my police training, so much of that came from recreational shooting. And suddenly Jeff comes along and shows us how to be serious about this. And I knew he was right, and I went out there and, you know, I went through his program and all that. And then later on I met Ray Chapman and most of the other luminaries. But as you know, I try to encourage my students to think we're dead serious here. I'm preparing you for the fight of your life, which may take place tonight. You don't get to know that. Nothing we do is recreational. We're not here to compare scores with each other. And I think most of that's counterproductive. We need to concentrate on what we're doing. We're learning how to fight effectively as it can be done with a pistol, so that I can live through this. And when students come to me for other reasons, I usually encourage them to go to someone else who might have an interest in recreational shooting, because I don't.